If you were born with the moon in Scorpio, you might have trust issues, intensely overwhelming emotions that are difficult to control, and a fear of intimacy, but at the same time also a really strong and deep need for intimacy, which can cause a lot of strange behaviors in your relationships from your side. What's really needed for a moon in Scorpio to make a relationship work is emotional honesty, openness, and vulnerability. But often their own fears can limit this, causing them to never really achieve the level of closeness in their relationships that they so dearly seek. Self-awareness is very important, as it is through this that Scorpio moons learn the lessons they need to learn to have the most intimate and closely connected relationships with others that they can. In today's video, I'm diving into how a Scorpio moon acts in relationships and who they are the most compatible with. Scorpio is connected to the 8th house in astrology. The 8th house represents complete merging of oneself with another. That means exposing all your fears, exposing all your vulnerabilities, but at the same time also sharing all your resources and everything you have with them. So in essence, Scorpio moons are emotionally programmed to live this sort of life, where their highest calling is the ultimate merging with another. But getting there can be a rocky road if they ever do get there. And one of the biggest things that stand in their way is trust. Because how do you share everything you have with another person if you don't trust them? With some of the strongest intuition and emotional awareness, Scorpio moons can really pick up on the emotional undercurrents around them. But this means that they can really pick up on the things that people might be hiding. They can pick up on the things that people might not be saying. They can pick up on the energies other people are putting out, even though they're trying to portray something else. So essentially what happens is, because a Scorpio moon picks up on all these different things, and even though other people try so hard to perhaps hide their thoughts, emotions, their intentions, or whatever it is from the Scorpio moon can feel it. They can see it. They can sense it. And this causes trust issues. So in essence, for a Scorpio moon to really have a good relationship with another individual, there needs to be 100% openness, 100% honesty, 100% vulnerability. Because the moment a Scorpio moon picks up that something is being hidden from them, or that the person they're with is inconsistent, they will start becoming suspicious. Now, the thing is, this can also be very difficult to work with for the person that a Scorpio moon is in a relationship with. Often, a Scorpio moon might be picking up on things that aren't really there. And because they often are so right, when they do pick up on things, they think they're always right. But what happens is their suspicion and their inability to trust actually interferes with their intuition very often. So they can actually just pick up on things out of fear, out of jealousy, or just out of a negative mind space and believe it. This can cause them to accuse their partner of all sorts of things. So in order to avoid all of this, Scorpio moons need to learn to have some of the most profound and intimately connected and vulnerable relationships that exist. Because without having this, a Scorpio moon will not feel comfortable. So as a Scorpio moon myself, I can confidently say that we really do feel things on a whole nother level. This has caused me to only really want to form relationships with people who are emotionally mature and able to understand my emotions. Even though this is what I want, on the other side, because of my inner traumas, I also end up forming relationships with people who can't be emotionally vulnerable. And these relationships test me the most. At the end of the day, we love hard, we feel really hard, and we really expect the innermost parts of our hearts, our emotions, and our souls to be dealt with delicately and with understanding in our relationships and with our partners. Essentially, that is the key. The person that we're with has to be willing to want to understand and work with us to get to a space where we can feel connected with them and also where we feel safe. For this reason, entering intimate relationships with people who prefer to keep things more casual on the emotional front is probably not the best idea for a Scorpio moon. This raw, unfiltered way of experiencing relationships and emotions is not for the faint of heart. So when it comes to relationships, us Scorpio moons need someone that can not only withstand our stormy seas, but enjoys sailing them with us. So what does the Scorpio moon represent? It symbolizes the inner world of emotions, instincts, and intimate bonds. If the sun sign depicts our outer personality, the moon shows who we are at our core. For those with their moon sign in Scorpio, passion, desire, fear, rage, love. These are all felt on an oceanic scale within a Scorpio Moon's soul. They experience a depth and complexity of feeling unlike any other lunar placement. The Scorpio Moon also represents primal urges, a yearning to merge and meld with a special someone, and an endless curiosity about what makes other people tick. Scorpio Moons want to dig beneath superficial conversations into the sticky, messy stuff that bonds us at an almost cellular level. I'm giving you my brutal honesty here. I often get very bored and unstimulated in conversations when they're just about mundane, everyday things. Because I love getting down to the bottom of the raw, sticky, messy things, I like it when conversations go deep. When I talk about things with people that make them feel uncomfortable. And for this reason, the closest people in my life are people that can really deal with this intense level of conversation. So if you're struggling to keep a conversation with a Scorpio Moon, maybe it's because you're talking about too many mundane and surface level things. Go deeper. Talk about the more hidden or unspoken things in life, and that's how you will get a Scorpio Moon's attention. Scorpio Moons do not shy away from uncomfortable emotions. They relish in them. They dive deep into them. They let it consume them. Very often when Scorpio Moon people are interacting with people or in relationships with people who find it really difficult to process uncomfortable and darker emotions, it can actually make the Scorpio Moon feel really isolated. So essentially they want a partner who will be with them in this state of processing and working through or just experiencing these, what one would say, more heavier emotions. Individuals who run from their shadow selves, who run from their subconscious, and who just run from their more darker emotions, these individuals are not the type of people who Scorpio Moons should be in relationships with. But there's a difference between a person who flat out refuses to deal with these things and a person who struggles to deal with these things but is willing to do the healing that is required. The person who's willing to do the healing that's required can be compatible with the Scorpio Moon. The Scorpio Moon symbolizes the desire to evolve through relationships. By surrendering themselves to profoundly transformative interactions, Scorpio Moons undergo a snake-like rebirth from the old, brittle version of themselves into someone who is stronger and wiser. But this level of change is harrowing. Scorpio Moons must be sure any partner is in it for the long, bumpy haul of a ride. When you're in a relationship with the Scorpio Moon, you're dealing with a person who really wants to get to the core of their dark emotions and process them. So you're dealing with a person who's going to potentially do a lot of self-work, but also potentially a person who's dealing with a lot of dark emotions. They can be dealing with things like addictions, jealousy, trust issues, trauma from the past. And the partner of a Scorpio Moon needs to understand that they cannot run from this and they have to help their Scorpio Moon partner, or not necessarily help them, but be in it with them. When it comes to relationships, Scorpio Moons are seeking nothing short of soul-merging intimacy that moves them at their very core. They approach love, sex, and bonding with an emotional intensity that's unrivaled. More than anything, they really yearn for an intimate understanding of their partner's innermost world. For Scorpio Moons, relating superficially just won't cut it. They need to connect with their beloved in the most visceral and profound levels mentally, emotionally, and physically. By diving into life's shadowy and mysterious depths together, a level of trust and acceptance forms that feeds the Scorpion Moon's soul. But make no mistake, Scorpio Moons feel everything with astonishing depth and complexity in relationships. The full spectrum, from agonizing jealousy to euphoric desire, washes over them in unrelenting waves. Learning to swim amidst such stormy seas requires a resilient spirit and commitment to brutal honesty. Above all, those born with the Scorpio Moon need a faithful partner who craves intimacy as much as they do. They want nothing more than to intertwine hearts, minds, and souls with their partner through passion and complete vulnerability. So there are three important things I've noticed about Scorpio Moons. Firstly, when they are not self-aware, when they do not do the work that is required, process their deeper and darker emotions, they can become really dark people. These people can become quite narcissistic, quite self-absorbed. Their emotions can be so intense and overwhelming that it's actually really difficult to be around them. But a Scorpio moon has the ability to shift this. They can shift their dark emotions into light emotions, and then when they're around other people, they're infectious in this. It's really about how much work they're willing to put in. So a Scorpio moon can be this incredibly wise person who understands human emotions like no other. Or they can be a person who uses human emotion for manipulation, or who has absolutely no grip on or understanding of their own. A big issue for Scorpio moons is relationships with narcissists. Because working with and understanding the human emotional spectrum is such a big part of their lesson, life often throws them people who are very difficult to work with in that regard. So what I mean is, if everybody in this world was just open and accepting to talking about their emotions, working through them, connecting and all this, we wouldn't have the issues we have, right? So life throws people in Scorpio moon's way that are very unworkable, that are very unwilling to connect, that are very unwilling to have emotional intimacy, who just skim the surface. And this can drive Scorpio moons insane. Very often, they attract partners like this. But the thing is, it's not about just saying, oh, this person is a narcissist, this person's completely unworkable, and getting out. The Scorpio moon actually has the inner power and the inner capability to help heal a person who has some of the darkest emotions out there. So once they're really stepped into their power, they can make a relationship work with a person who is actually entirely unworkable and unwilling to open up. Because over time, the Scorpio moon can get that person to open up through making them feel safe. But this only occurs when the Scorpio moon, like I said, has stepped into their power, because only then do they have the levels of sympathy and understanding needed to deal with and be in a relationship with a person like this. When a Scorpio moon is still in their turbulent emotional phase, which is usually early on in their life, making a relationship work with someone like this is almost impossible. When it comes to affairs of the heart, Scorpio moons only know one mood: intense. For them, intimacy holds an almost mystical quality, a ways to lose oneself in another, yet to become more whole in the process. Once they care for someone, Scorpio moons tend to become quickly entangled. In the beginning euphoria of a new love, they imagine merging heart, mind, body, and soul with their beloved. But eventually, the rose-tinted glasses fade, and the Scorpio moon starts to uncover the shadow aspects between themselves and their partner. It is here that Scorpio moons must learn to accept and embrace both the beautiful and the ugly sides of relating, if they are to evolve through this experience. By diving into love's depths, no matter how stormy, they undergo a phoenix-like renewal that enriches their characters. For them, relationships are transformative, changing their very essence down to the molecular level. Such is the power of their passionate connections. Without cultivating this intimate understanding of another, Scorpio moons often flounder in isolation and destructive behaviors. You see, digging into the shadowy parts of themselves and a lover actually makes them feel whole, accepted, and transformed. They want nothing more than for you to see their dark side and still love them anyways. Part of the Scorpio moon's higher calling and purpose is consistent emotional transformation. So being in a relationship where there's just these cycles of healing and becoming stronger, that is what a Scorpio moon is all about. That is what they need within their experience. So to a Scorpio moon, things can always just get better. You can always just be more connected, more loved, more intimate. So they're always striving and seeking for ways to make a relationship with the person they're with even more stronger than it ever was before. And there shouldn't be a problem with that, because that is part of their purpose. That is part of their mission. Because for a Scorpio moon, if you cannot love their dark side, if you cannot love them when they're in the depths of darkness, then you don't love them truly. Because often Scorpio moons are hiding that darkness from everyone around them. If they need to hide a part of them from you, then they're having a superficial relationship with you, and they know that. Intimacy provides a direct channel to evolve and regenerate themselves. By revealing their inner monsters and finding a safe harbor for them in a partner, the process becomes positively cathartic. This level of vulnerability and fusion with another person takes tremendous courage, but once they sense a kindred spirit, someone they trust who will never judge them, they will gladly devote themselves passionately to the relationship. For them, intimacy is the nectar of the gods. For those of the Scorpio moon, learning to open up and trust in a relationship is not easy. In many ways, having an intimate connection with another goes against their intrinsic nature, yet it's precisely what they yearn for the most. Scorpio moons tend to be highly private, guarded people initially. They carefully regulate what parts of themselves are revealed, reserving their innermost world only for those deemed worthy. But this wariness often hinders intimacy and the very unions they desperately seek. A Scorpio moon must consciously work to suppress their skeptical, distrustful instincts in order to foster transparency with a partner. Peeling off their layers of protective armor is like tearing at one's skin, painful but yet necessary for profound closeness. They must learn to quell their fears of being wholly exposed and vulnerable with no way to hide. It means illuminating even the ugliest, messiest dimensions of themselves, then resisting the urge to lash out if met without acceptance. For Scorpio moons, intimacy necessitates total disclosure without room for secrecy. When they do sense that it is safe to confide their inner darkness, Scorpio moons will begin to thrive in the relationship. By baring their souls little by little, bonds of unbreakable trust start to form, allowing greater openness. Soon, electrifying passion and fusion between two become possible once formidable walls crumble away. In many ways, relationships are the Scorpio moon's testing ground, an opportunity to either revolve into a state of true intimacy or regression triggered by past hurts. If willing, however, even the relationship-wary Scorpio moon discovers bliss in vulnerability. So when it comes to compatibility, who really gets a Scorpio moon and who is their best match? I'm going to compare other moon signs with the Scorpio moon. Firstly, we have Aries moon. A relationship with the Aries moon, in my opinion, can be very compatible because Aries is also ruled by Mars. This means that if an Aries moon is also on the same page of wanting to build intimacy and closeness, they will actually be very driven in this mission, and they'll want to create this with their Scorpio moon partner. An Aries moon is also able to deal with the intense emotions of a Scorpio moon because they have quite intense and uncontrollable emotions themselves. But with this combination, things can go a little pear-shaped as well. So this relationship will only really work if the Aries moon is willing and open to be emotionally vulnerable and to do the healing that's required to actually have a happy relationship with the Scorpio moon. Taurus moon. As a Scorpio moon, I find myself really getting along with Taurus moons incredibly well. I can have really in-depth, deep conversations with them, but what I appreciate about them is that they do not get as emotionally triggered or as uncomfortable as other moon signs. So they're quite level-headed, but at the same time, they do not let their emotions run away with them like mine would, for example, as a Scorpio moon. So I find talking with them to just be very therapeutic. Taurus moons rarely have any negative reactions to anything I say or any bad emotions I might be displaying, and they generally just make me feel really, really comfortable around them. Gemini moon. So Scorpio moons and Gemini moons are not incredibly compatible. The reason for this is because Gemini moons can often struggle with the depth and intimacy a Scorpio moon requires. They can be a bit flighty, they can be a little bit unstable. And this is really not good for the Scorpio moon because they often need someone who's invested. Cancer moon. Cancer moon is one of the best and most compatible placements for a Scorpio moon. The reason for this is because Cancer moons also have a very big theme surrounding emotional vulnerability and openness in relationships, but also being scared to be emotionally open unless they feel safe. And together, a Cancer and Scorpio moon can work to create the safe haven together. Leo moon. Initially, a Leo and Scorpio moon will get along, but over time, their relationship might erode due to ego struggles and ego battles. Very often, what happens with this combination is the goal doesn't become emotional unison, but more of an ego battle and who wins. Often when it's the ego battle, it can be difficult for either the Scorpio moon or the Leo moon to soften up and to open up, and these two never really just find a ground to connect on. Virgo moon. A Virgo moon, just like a Taurus moon, can be very compatible with the Scorpio moon, but one thing I need to mention is that often a Scorpio moon can find a Virgo moon to be a bit cold. The Virgo moon won't react too much to the Scorpio moon's emotional flare-ups, but at the same time, they won't show them too much compassion and support, whereas the Taurus moon might be better at showing the compassion and support. As a Scorpio moon, I found myself very attracted to Virgo moons, and I love their energy, and I can have incredibly connected relationships with them. And overall, it's very compatible, but you must just watch out for dynamics where the Scorpio moon might sometimes view the Virgo moon as a bit of a brick wall. Libra moon. A Libra moon and Scorpio moon can be incredibly compatible. A Libra really wants to have a connected relationship as well. And I have seen many Scorpio-Libra combinations make it work and make it last. Essentially, the ultimate goal of a Libra moon and Scorpio moon is very similar, which is having a happy and well-connected relationship. Scorpio moon and Scorpio moon. This can also be a very compatible relationship, but the issue is that two Scorpio moons may find it really difficult dealing with each other's emotions because it's just too much intensity. So often, two Scorpio moons do a lot better in a friendship instead of a heated romantic relationship. They can also do really well in business partnerships and any kind of relationship that requires them to come together, but not to get too emotionally flared up together. Sagittarius. Sagittarius and Scorpio moon I've also found to be quite a compatible combination, but they often don't end up in relationships either, and this is also a much better friendship or business partner or family type of combination. The reason why I say this is because the Sagittarius is incredibly open to listening to the Scorpio moon and trying to understand the perspective of the Scorpio moon, but they do not offer them the security and grounding that they need, as they can be quite flighty and on their own mission. A Scorpio moon kind of needs someone who's more with them, not over there. Capricorn. Capricorn moons and Scorpio moons I found to be a very good combination. My partner has a Capricorn moon. Capricorn moons can be a bit more direct and they don't like to deal with issues or dramatics or theatrics. So a Capricorn moon can basically help a Scorpio moon become a lot more grounded with their emotions. In the beginning, it can be very difficult because the Capricorn moon will tell the Scorpio moon, you're being a bit overly dramatic, maybe you should calm down and be a bit more logical about these things. But at the end of the day, the Capricorn moon can actually help the Scorpio moon be more logical about their erratic emotions. This also creates a very good power couple dynamic, and I find it to be quite a compatible combination. Aquarius moon. Even though Aquarius and Scorpio come into a square, I find Aquarius and Scorpio moons to also be rather compatible. But there's two sides to this. One type of Aquarius moon can be very flighty and not very invested. Another type of Aquarius moon can place a very big part of their identity on their relationship and their friendships. When a Scorpio moon interacts with that type of Aquarius moon, they can have a very happy relationship with them. Aquarius is very accepting, they're very understanding. Even though they might struggle to be vulnerable and open with their own emotions, they can often be very good with other people's emotions and very caring towards other people. For this reason, Scorpio and Aquarius moon is a good combination in my opinion. And then last but not least, Pisces moon. So Pisces and Scorpio creates a trine, meaning it's a compatible combination. And because Pisces also has the emotional sensitivity, this can be a really good relationship. But Pisces moon is very sensitive, whereas Scorpio moon is very emotionally intense. So often, Scorpio moon's emotional intensity and their sharp words can be a bit too much for the sensitive Pisces moon, causing them to retreat and maybe try and avoid their partner. So the Pisces moon really needs to learn to maybe be a bit stronger, maybe toughen up a little bit, and understand that when their Scorpio moon partner speaks to them, it's not them trying to hurt them or attack them, but trying to find a space of connection. So this is my video on the Scorpio moon and its compatibility. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel if you have not already, and please let me know in the comments what you thought of it. Are you a Scorpio moon, and do you have these expectations in your relationships? Can you relate to what I've said? Who do you find to be your most compatible partner? Which zodiac placements are you most compatible with? Please let me know in the comments. Check out the link to my socials and my website in the description to this video if you'd like to see what I'm up to and to connect with me. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time.